Welcome again to another segment of the Audio 300. Had the pleasure of speaking with Ryan Fay, Global CIO for ACI Specialty Benefits. He sits out in beautiful San Diego, California. Don't ask me how I know that. I've never been, but I've heard great things. While the rest of us, he's staying warm while the rest of us are freezing over here on the East Coast. But we spoke about blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, and really from a beginner's perspective, kind of blockchain, cryptocurrency 101, what we all need to know as this continues to grow in popularity, more and more people start getting on board. I just had a discussion with Ryan about that, and hopefully you guys find value. Stay tuned. Should be a good topic. All right, guys, so I'm here with Ryan Fay, Global CIO for ACI Specialty Benefits. Ryan, I'll let you have the floor for a few seconds and shed some color on who you are and what you do.
Thanks so much, Davis. I really appreciate you having me on today, and I'm excited to talk about both blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and just digital currencies in general. So a little bit about what we do. What I do here is I've been using blockchain technologies for the past, since about 2009, and I was one of the first people that actually started mining a lot of Bitcoin back in 2009 as well, too. So I've definitely seen the marketplace and the entire ecosystem shift over the last roughly 9 years into what it is today. So the last year has been a really kind of fun paradigm shift, and I'm excited to kind of talk about the different areas and what is kind of came about today.
Awesome. We're happy to have you on. I think the topic today is going to be great to get feedback from somebody in your position. And what we wanted to discuss, Ryan, was for anybody that's kind of catching wind of what's going on in the news and media outlets surrounding blockchain, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin. Everybody I'm sure is aware of this, and there's going to be varying levels of people who understand it really well. Some people are kind of in the middle of the pack, and then obviously beginners who don't know anything about it. So, I think what I'd love to hear from you is, for those people that are just starting out, just starting to hear about it, basically cryptocurrency, blockchain 101. What is, 1, 2, 3 things, some key things that we need to know about blockchain, cryptocurrencies as we, begin to learn about this trend and what's going on in the marketplace from your perspective?
Yeah, I think the great place to start for anybody that's kind of new in the space is to just read the white paper from Bitcoin itself, and that's just posted on bitcoin.org. And the original idea for Bitcoin was to really be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And the idea was to have online payments that were sent directly from one party to another without going through any financial institution. And the reason why that was so important from the beginning is because in 2008, there was a financial crisis that caused a lot of people to lose both trust and a lot of money in banks. And people started questioning, were banks or third parties really the right guardians to have this global financial system that had full control over everyone's essentially finances? So Bitcoin came along, and somebody wrote a white paper that he used a name, he or she used the name Satoshi Nakamoto, and no one knows today who that actually is. And from there, it just turned into something that essentially was something that you could do to handle digital transaction without any kind of trusted middle person or middleman. So the idea is to really have a centralized public ledger. And it's decentralized, it's trustless, it's transparent. And on the Bitcoin actual ledger, the whole point of it was actually just to track a single asset, which is Bitcoin. That's a lowercase Bitcoin. I think 101, what a lot of people don't realize or understand is that capitalized B, Bitcoin, is actually the Bitcoin ledger. Lowercase Bitcoin actually refers to the currency or the actual unit of accounting on the actual Bitcoin ledger. So that's just something to really kind of take a look at first. And Bitcoin today is probably, it's the first technology that's come out of this blockchain revolution, but the idea is it's encoded and it has some rules on the ledger. And what are the rules is that there'll never be more than 21 million Bitcoin lowercase produced. And the reason why that's important is because that actually caps supply, circulation. It goes into all the different areas about there can't be more Bitcoin just printed on a whim, which really starts to go into inflation and all the other areas as well. Not thinking in the weeds, but every Bitcoin is centralized, so there's no single entity running Bitcoin itself as a corporation. It's just a bunch of nodes or computers that are essentially running all these different ledgers and rules. And that's kind of Bitcoin from a high level. And when I first start talking to somebody, the way I like to explain it is it's similar to, as if you were just to give somebody a physical coin and then they were to give you back a coin, and that's kind of the way that it was originally supposed to come about. What happened, though, is it turned into a much faster digital transaction processing. And what I mean by that is the ledger started growing and growing as more and more people started to use the network, obviously. So when that happened, other companies started coming out, and they started releasing other projects. Those projects are called ICOs, or initial coin offerings. And right now, there's a great site you can go to take a look at all those cryptocurrency market capitalizations. It's called coinmarketcap.com. And as of today, 1/5/2018 at 1:14 p.m. Pacific time, there's over 1,384 cryptocurrencies and over 7,540 markets. So what that means is the market cap of cryptocurrency alone is over $770 billion. The volume is over 60 billion, and Bitcoin itself is 37% of that. And that's gone down substantially in the last 24 to 48 months here. And like I said, there's now over 13,000 other cryptocurrencies out there, or digital currencies. Mm-hmm. So the best place to start when looking at any of this is to really go to the website of whatever other coin you're looking at. And I think the majority of people, they probably only know about maybe 2 or 3 coins. They probably know Bitcoin. They might know Ethereum. They might know about Litecoin. Pretty much all the ones that Coinbase has available on their public area. They just released Bitcoin Cash as well. So what a lot of people don't realize is that there's other coins called altcoins, alternative coins as well. Those coins make up a big part of the market. So instead of going through a formal process of initial public offering, these coins are going through initial coin offering, an ICO, as I mentioned earlier. And what they're doing is they're writing a white paper, and then they're essentially distributing tokens out, which don't actually give anybody any kind of stake or equity in the company. It's pretty much similar to Kickstarter, where you're backing the idea, and you're giving money to the company to kind of make that come to life. So I think from a high level, those are the most important things to realize, is that, 1, Bitcoin is just one of the many coins out there. 2, the whole point is to be a decentralized ledger you can use to actually make sure that payments are actually sent correctly, and there's timestamps, and there's a bunch of technical details that go in the background of how exactly that works and different methodologies. And then last but not least, that there's new companies coming out every day, and they're releasing these ICOs, and they're essentially generating more money than companies that have been in business for years. So Ripple has been a pretty popular use case, and for that, one of the founders is now one of the richest people in the world. And they just released this, a few years ago. So there's definitely a huge influx in what you can do in this space. And a lot of it's hype right now, and a lot of it's, obviously kind of the Wild West. It's not regulated. So the SEC is kind of getting involved and trying to understand, is the security, how's it's working for high level. So a lot of these ICOs are working to, kind of get around regulations and hosting these ICOs outside of the U.S. and areas that are maybe a little bit more lenient towards this type of market capitalization or this way of funding. So there's been places like, Dubai and Estonia that are really trying to make their whole entire ecosystems on blockchain. So the use cases are numerous, and there is some real good life use cases and actual operations to using blockchain. And we can get into that too if we have time, but from a high-level 101, I recommend that if you wanted to become a token buyer in one of these different projects, to go onto their website, read the white paper, and try to understand a little about the technology that they're using. Sure. People right now are really investing in FOMO, which is fear of missing out, and there's a lot of FUD going around, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's causing a lot of people to just really maybe not even look at what that project is trying to accomplish, and they're just investing, according to the SEC, based on kind of just the hype that's in the marketplace right now.
Yeah, no, that's all good stuff, and I think for a lot of people who start out, and I know this was for me specifically, I think the positives are pretty glaring, right? Just with blockchain and cryptocurrencies and the positives around it being decentralized and run by the masses and everything. It's not controlled by any central government. I think a lot of the positives are pretty glaring to folks. As we wrap this up, Ryan, I'd be curious to know maybe one or two areas that as people again begin to understand this a little bit better. What are maybe one or two areas where we need to be mindful? Maybe some negatives to this, or things in the future that might not be on the positive side when it comes to this being a global currency, a global technology that everybody's using. What can we look at and be mindful of?
Yeah, I think something to be mindful of, obviously, as you're using this as a global currency. And one thing that I believe is that Bitcoin itself will probably not become a global currency anytime soon, because for the 21 million coins to actually be released, that's not going to happen for another about 100 years. So there's going to be a huge influx, and the market's going to be super volatile. So that's one thing that's going to be probably something that people want to keep in mind when they're looking to become a token buyer, is that the market's volatile. It can go up by anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000%, in a few hours.
Right.
So that's one area. The next area is that there's a lot of quote unquote whales out there which own a majority stake in a lot of these tokens, and they can really dictate the market based on their sell orders and buy orders. So again, if you're getting into this, you're going to have very little influence in what you can actually accomplish by holding a very little amount of coins or tokens, depending on the project. So I think you have to just know what you're getting into and understand the technology behind it, because there's a lot of projects out there that have been having an ICO for quite some time. The longest ICO that I know of, at least, has been going on for a year. And that's a long time to raise money. And without any there's been some deliverables, some POCs and MVPs, but I would still consider it somewhat of vaporware. So I think you really need to understand what you are backing. It's like Kickstarter. You can go on there, and there's a lot of projects that look really cool, but you have to ask yourself, what's the likelihood of this actually happening and coming to fruition? So for me, that's one of the biggest areas if you're going to start using this as a currency, is understanding what you're actually buying into.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, that's great stuff. Obviously, great feedback from somebody who's been in it for quite some time. So we appreciate the time, and hopefully this was of value to the listeners, which I believe it probably was. So again, we appreciate you coming on and talking to us about this.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for the opportunity.